Hey gang, Uncle Todd and Sonny here, and we've got quite the flick this week. We're looking at an amazing cast. Let me get my notes out here. Headlining it is the great Talia Shire, who, of course, is best known for her roles in the Godfather trilogy and in the Rocky films, except for the Creeds and Rocky Balboa, where her character was killed off. With She agreed to that one. She thought it would be good for the Rocky character. Playing our male lead is Robert Foxworth, a popular TV actor. This is one of his few actual feature films. He's probably best known for the nighttime soap Falcon Crest, which followed Dallas on Friday nights, because my mom was a devoted fan to both. She actually preferred Falcon Crest. Although she liked the JR, she really liked the Jane Wyman. Some of his he had a lot of horror credits in the 70s with the TV films Frankenstein, which was a two-parter on Wide World of Mystery. He also was in The Devil's Daughter, the echo horror Ants, tying in with this one, the sci-fi mystery Astral Factor, about a escaped prisoner who could make himself invisible and teleport and stuff. Death Moon, which was a werewolf movie set in Hawaii. And one of his other feature films was in Omen 2. Next, we have the great Armand Assante, who had a very varied career. He was in Paradise Alley, which was a Sylvester Stallone drama back before he went the whole action hero route after First Blood. He was also in Judge Dredd, where he again played Stallone's brother, only this time he was a real enemy. He was in the teen comedy Little Darlings as a camp counselor. And played Mike Hammer in a modernized version of I, the Jury, in which he played a very New York Italian version of the Irish New York character. But that's okay, because Armand Assante's background is both Italian and Irish from his parents. So we'll let that go. But his real claim to fame was in the gangster mode. Although he did play an actor suspected of being the Ripper in the miniseries Jack the Ripper, where he was being where the character was being hunted by Michael Caine. But it was his gangster roles where he really became big. He was, of course, the gangster that Jack Nicholson dealt with in Hoffa, and he played sorry John Travolta, but Armand Assante is the definitive John Gotti. He even won an Emmy for it in the miniseries Gotti. We also have Richard Dicer, who, of course, became a big TV star as the head of the law firm in LA Law. Some of his genre credits, of course, include The Terminal Man, about a man who suffers epilepsy and gets hooked to a computer to alleviate that, and instead causes him to go on these berserk murderous rages. He was in John Carpenter's The Thing. He's the one who was applying the device to jump someone's heart, and the chest opened up and he lost his arms. And he was the businessman antagonist in the eerie western Pale Rider from Clint Eastwood. And playing our titular Monstr well, not titular, but the Monstr is Kevin Peter Hall, who was sort of the 80s, 90s version of Doug Jones. He was very tall, very thin. He did have some work in sitcoms like 227, where he was a semi regular, and he was one of the main characters in the short lived but still beloved cult series Masters or Misfits of Science. He played a man who could shrink down to about 6 inches in height. His creature work included Predator 1 and 2, Without Warning, which was an alien monster movie, just like Predator, and Monstr in the Closet, where he played the monster that comes out of the closet and grabs people. It was more of a comedy. And, of course, what he's best remembered for, Harry and the Hendersons, both the film and the syndicated show. Sadly, he died rather young. Our director is John Frankenheimer, the great John Frankenheimer, who gave us probably Rock Hudson's best performance in the sci-fi thriller Seconds, about an older man who goes to an agency that will give him a new life with a younger looking face and everything, and has a real shocker of an ending. He also directed The Manchurian Candidate, the political thriller Black Sunday, not the one with Barbara Steele. That's Mario Bava. This was based on the first book by Thomas Harris before he got into the whole Hannibal thing. And he also did the unfortunate version of Island of Dr. Moreau with Marlon Brando and Val Kilmer. He was brought in to replace the original director, who was having trouble with things on the set. But he bounced back with the great film Ronin, which of course starred Robert De Niro. Well, we open with a bunch of men in a search party. They're looking for some loggers in the Maine woods who have gone missing, and it doesn't end well for them. Very good opening. Next, we move over to, I believe it's New York, might be Los Angeles, where we're introduced to Maggie, who is a celloist in an orchestra, and allows the director to slip some classical music in here to, prestige the place up for a monster movie. And we learn something about her and some of the problems she's having with her husband.
I don't know why you don't just tell him.
Because I know what he'll say. The world's in such a mess, it's unfair to bring a child into it. That there are 3 million unwanted children.
So, Maggie is with child. But her husband doesn't want to have any children, ever. He also doesn't want them to be the one responsible for protection against this thing, so... yeah, one of those kind of guys. Let us meet this husband named Rob and what he does for a living.
In here, there's rats in here, and them rats bit my baby. You know what he said to me? He said, the rats got to have room to live too.
Okay. I can kind of see where he's coming from. He's a social worker, deals with a lot of people that are poor and they're getting squeezed out of their tenements because landlords want to, what's the word? gentrify the place. And he's becoming very cynical. And then he gets an offer to get out of this. You see, that thing we saw earlier with the guy searching for the loggers. The logging company got the rights to this part of land that says they can log it. The native population says, no, that is our land. You can't have it. And right now the Supreme Court has put a stop on anything from the indigenous people. And there's still disputes, accusations of sabotage, accusations of poisoning the tribe. So they need an EPA agent to go down and do some investigating. And if it's a bad report, logging company will have to stop. If it's a good report, the tribe will have to stop. So he and Maggie pack up and they head to Maine, where while heading to the cabin where they'll be staying, they run into a blockade.
These people are from the Environmental Protection Agency. I'd appreciate being let through.
No car from the lumber company gets through here.
Yeah. Perfect role for an Italian Irish American. Native chief. Richard Dysart there as the head of the lumber company. Think he's going to become a villain?
Council, cut down those 2 trees, please.
Yeah, bad guy. But it does give us a pretty cool fight between a man with an axe and a man with a chainsaw. I think they were going to kill him if he didn't open that gate. I think he was willing to die. Luckily, Ramona is I don't know really what the relationship is. A fellow tribes member opens it and everybody goes through, at which point we then get some shots of beautiful lakeside forestry and things. And then while Maggie's playing her cello, Rob goes out to catch dinner and sees an amazing sight. Why aren't they having a fishing contest to catch that thing? That'd bring people from all around. After dinner of the freshly caught fish he caught, not that big one there, they get a most unexpected and unwelcome visitor. You do know raccoons are related to bears. You know, Stephen Colbert's godless killing machines. They're just smaller. Anyway, this was a vicious one. They have a fight before it's finally killed in the fireplace. We can skip that. The next day, he sends samples of the raccoon back to get tested. And he meets John Hawkes, Armando Sante. And he and Romana take him to see her grandfather, where he makes 2 very interesting discoveries.
To store perishables. The poor?
It's a tadpole.
Poor guy. He's been burning his fingers with his cigarettes, almost as if he doesn't feel it. And how the heck did a tadpole get that size? Oh, one of the things we should bring up is that the death from the beginning of the film. Now, of course, the logging company that makes it's a paper mill basically, claims that tribe's doing it, and some of the tribal elders, the tribe's saying they didn't do it. Some of the elders are blaming it on their ancient god, the Catilid. That's pronounced it. Which Ramona's grandfather explains what that is.
He is part of all things created, and he bears a mark of each of God's creatures.
You say that with great affection.
He has wakened to protect us.
He's part of all. I've got to take this down. This is important. Okay. Sure, that'll come in useful later on. Thank you for your patience. The largeness of the animals, and knowing that the paper mill feeds into the surrounding waters. He's also noticed the trees are odd too, almost like they're mutated. So he goes to talk to the paper mill.
I want to know what you soaked the logs in. What chemical? None. I don't believe that. Well, then you take water samples. That's what we do.
He seems pretty confident about that. Of course, if he had known what would happen later, he wouldn't have been so confident, because on their way out, Maggie slips in some mud. And when they're boating back to their cabin, there's some silvery stuff in the mud that isn't wet.
They gave us a trick question in medical school. What's the only liquid in the world that isn't wet?
What was the answer?
Mercury.
Mercury. Yeah, it would just sink down into the mud. He does some research and finds that there was a time when mercury was used as a whitening agent on paper. But, let me see. They actually reference a real incident. It's the basis for the film. Starting block, anyways. Yes, it was an environmental disaster in the Japanese city of Minamata, and it caused severe mutations and neurological degeneration among the locals. That's why it was outlawed. But it's very cheap, and his supposition is that that's why they've been using it and covering it up, and why they knew the water testing would come back pristine. Now, going by his theory, the fish, the mercury is affecting the underwater plants because it's on the bottom. Fish eat the plants, they mutate. The animals and the tribe, the people, eat fish. They get mutated. And then we get a long explanation of how this could affect developing fetuses.
Human fetus, for instance. At one stage, it's a fish. It looks like a fish. It's got fins and gills. At another, it's amphibian, webbed hands. At another, reptilian. At another, it's feline, developing upward in the distinct shapes and phases of the evolutionary scale. This chemical, methylmercury, adheres to the DNA. DNA is a chromosomal fixative. It could freeze certain parts at one evolutionary stage while the other parts continue growing.
Inconceivable!
That explains so much. It explains the large tadpole, the large salmon, the enraged raccoon, and the burn on the old man's fingers. It's probably been causing some neurological damage in his fingers, and he didn't even feel cigarettes burning. Plant's been there 20 years, so it's pretty bad. And Maggie's really worried now too. They ate some of that fish. You know how much it takes to affect the developing fetus? Not much. You know, this movie's about half over, and we haven't even gotten into a good monster attack. You're all doomed. About time. Didn't get a good look at the thing, but I don't know if the description fits. Piece of every creature. Anyways, the next day, Rob and Maggie head to the village where they're taking blood samples. This will give, if there's large amounts of mercury in their systems, they'll have a case against the lumber mill and will probably get shut down. Fortunately, while they're doing this, head of the lumber company arrives with the sheriff. They're blaming John for the... Taz, stop getting into everything. They're blaming John for the death of that family of campers. Well, he escapes because he knows the forest. Rob talks Ramona into taking them to the site where the attack happened. So they go by plane, or I should say helicopter. And he makes some interesting discoveries.
That from up there?
No.
Turns out John's also there. He's wanting to investigate, proves innocence. But Maggie, while looking over some poacher nets, makes an even more important discovery. Looks like a skinned bear cub. Anyways, they grab the one that's still alive and try to keep it warm. They want to head back to town, but the rain has grounded the copter. So they head to Ramona's grandfather's teepee. He's not there, but they situate things. And at this point, while John is out getting the lumber company head and the sheriff to confront them with this, Maggie decides to have a tete-a-tete with her husband over that pesky little baby she hadn't told him about yet.
I'm pregnant. And I ate what the mother of those creatures ate. It's not a nightmare that's going to end. It's just beginning because it's inside me.
I know.
You didn't want to know. I tried to tell you, but you wouldn't listen. You were too busy playing God to be...
Take care of it.
No! I can't kill it.
Well, we've got no time for pesky human emotions. John's returned with the sheriff and head of the lumber company. And, well, they're not quite prepared for what they're going to be shown.
This is a result of methyl mercury spilling out of your plant. My God.
Oh, now he's contrite. Still, there's one question that needs to be answered.
Did you know? I didn't want to.
No, I buy him on that one. Anyway, luckily, at this point, Ramona's grandfather shows up with a special guest.
Mariah.
And run they do. It is massive chaos. I think they're short a few men now. The pilot is injured. That'll be important later. Anyway, they all make it into the tunnels. Creature stomps around. Oh, I know what you're thinking. Seeing that full shot, that does not look like a monster that has a piece of everything. There's a reason for that. Now, the original concept, and they built a suit for it, was to look like the description. And that was also used for the poster and the paperback novelization. But Frankenheimer felt that wasn't right. He wanted it to look more like a bear, which is how we ended up with this bear that looks like it got skinned and is still walking around. Anyways, it's stomping around up there because, well, it wants the baby. You know, as any mother would. Well, then things get quiet. So the sheriff, he thinks he'll take a little peek. Looks like he's still there. Although, we now get the coolest, most artistic shot in the whole film. Impressive, huh? Reminds me of a similar shot in Kurosawa's The High and Low. It was a crime drama he made in the 60s. It was actually an adaptation of an Ed McBain novel. Anyway, the next morning it's cleared out. So they're going to have to go somewhere, get help. They decide to head towards the Maine's tribal village. They get help there, send someone to town. Meanwhile, the head of the lumber mill, he's going to head to a microwave tower that is up at the mountain, and he can radio for help. So, you know, pretty good. Two different ways, and so they head out. Now, our group makes it to the tribal village, no problem. It's deserted. They all got out of town real quick after the arrest, or attempted arrest of John. Oh, as for the microwave tower? crunching sound. Looks like help's not coming that way. But John does some scouting, and he comes back with a nice vehicle that might just do the trick.
From here, we'll pick up the trees. Lift the carrier.
Carry.
It's like a tank. It's used for moving equipment. It'll go through anything.
Will it run?
Got tools in the cabin. I'm gonna cross the wires.
How long will it take to get to town?
We leave now. 3 hours, maybe 4.
So it'll be dark. They'll be in this practically indestructible carrier. Well, practically is the key word there. Well, everybody scrambles out, except for the injured pilot. And as for what happened to him, well, I refer you to the beginning of the video. That was him. Basically, his head gets chomped. Well, they make it to a lake or pond, something like that. Big body of water. And they start swimming. And Ramona's grandfather, he decides now's the time to commune with their god. Guess he didn't like the prayer. Anyway, they make it to the other side. They feel pretty confident that they're safe. Looks like it drowned. Yep, they're safe. Okay, time to get inside. There's a rifle in that cabin. And John's got his bow and arrow. It should be fine. Tough monster. Better take it outside. Armand. He's gone. Ramona got taken out. It's just Rob and Maggie now. And all Rob's got is an arrow he picked up off the ground. What could he possibly do with that? Okay, that's effective. When in a bear hug, use your arrow to just repeatedly go for the head. Let's see if that worked. Okay, that worked. Crisis over. I think you got him. You got it. Enough already. Finally. Well, next day. As for the baby mutant, that died the previous night. We don't need to go into it. Anyway. So next day, they're heading out on a plane. The lumber company's going to be shut down. You know, all's good. It's not like there's anything else that could pop up to let us know that this is going to be an ongoing problem. Of course. You can't have a post-Halloween movie without a jump at the end. This is not a great film. Although it's made by a really good filmmaker, there are some problems with it. One is the fact that they made the monster look too much like a bear. I think that was a mistake on the director's part. Also, the film was PG. He originally had wanted it to be an R-rated film to really highlight the horror aspects. You know, a little gore for the gore fans. But studio wanted a PG film so that more people could see it. And I think he was correct in that hurt the effect that the film had. The costume doesn't look that good. And a little too much melodrama. The mystery's okay, but it's solved fairly quickly, and we still don't get a lot of the monster until like the last third to a quarter, I'd say quarter of the film. All the real big action happens then. But it's got a good cast, everybody does well. Of course, Talia Shire gets the really emotional scene. Robert Foxworth, he's kind of stoic to the whole thing, or he's ticked off. That's sort of his two emotions he has there. But, Dysart, nice and slimy as the head of the logging company, and Armand Assante, he's okay. He's not really given a lot to do except be the noble warrior, and there's not a lot for him to work with there. But there are some good action sequences. I mean, when that shot of Asante's character going flying when he gets hit, pretty good. And of course, that really cool shot of the flames in one man's eyeglasses, excellent. It's just that the first half to three quarters just drags. And even after that big attack on the tent where you get the explosion and everything, then there's a long stretch where they're just in the woods, walking, carrying or dragging the injured pilot. This really could have been, I think, a really good echo horror film, but they wanted a little too much artistry and a little too much melodrama with the whole pregnancy and the mutation and the back and forth between them, because they have a lot of arguments about kids in the first half where she's trying to broach the subject and he's just not wanting to hear it, and it gets a little repetitive. Although standout scene for her, you know, explaining the whole thing about she's carrying a mutant baby and she's gonna have it, making it a pro-life film when you think about it. Yeah. And I'm not quite sure why she's with this guy. He's a bit of a jerk at all times. A little self-righteous. And it's not like Foxworth can't be charming and ingratiating and really get you on his side. I mean, if you've ever seen some of his other work, especially Falcon Crest, he's really, really good. And you can... Okay, he's not great, but he's a good actor, and he can be charming and sophisticated. He was that way when he played a villain on Columbo back in the 90s remake, where he got to be a little slimy there, as well as charming and ingratiating and arrogant. Anyway, that's really all there's to say. Stephen King had some good things to say about it in his book Dance Macabre, but even he had to admit this was a pretty sorry excuse for a horror film. Good setup, good ideas, just poor execution, I think. And I think that went more for studio interference than for any actual ineptitude. Frankenheimer's too good a director. But this is one of his lesser films. Not as bad as Island of Dr. Moreau, because that's a mess. But this, it's okay. Please hit like, share, and subscribe. And stay after the credits for my favorite scene, which you will probably know what it is if you are familiar with the film or saw the original trailer on YouTube. It's kind of funny, tragic, and nasty all at once.